Welcome, friends. Welcome. Good to have you back. Oops, I wasn't supposed to go to this screen today. That's okay. How you doing? Welcome. This is the Sandwich Corner, a companion program to the Sandwich Show that we air in between all of our Twitch streams. This is your host, Dave Medina. You know me as Davey's eating a sandwich on all the different platforms out there, and it's nice to have you back here tonight. We are going to chat about the NBA Finals this evening. And to do that, I'd like to recruit the assistance and companionship of our good friend Chris in Georgia. Chris, it's good to have you back. How's it going this evening?
Hey, Dave. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you too.
That was a nice intro. Appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, really good to have you. I mean, this is a very clean point of the week to do this. So we were gonna do this on Wednesday, but some personal things were happening for us. Actually, you saw it over on Twitch. Like we lost one of our friends in the community. Unfortunately, Chris is familiar with that kind of thing too. But all this to say that our friend Big Bill Hundo will be sorely missed, and just sad how that happened. So for that reason, we decided to postpone to today, and a pretty good decision because it gave every series a pretty solid wrapping. I mean, an unfortunate way for that to happen. I mean, I was really expecting so much more out of both the East and West finals, but it didn't happen. And we ended up with the Celtics winning in 4 straight games, and we had the Mavericks winning in 5 games. And as you mentioned in text last night, like the 5th game was absolutely unwatchable. Just no reason, if you miss it, you're like, man, don't even watch it because it was there's nothing going on. It was just it is what it is. And so we are set with an NBA Finals matchup. This is not it. It's not the Oilers versus the Stars, though that would be a very interesting finals. Instead, we will get the Mavericks versus the Boston Celtics starting in just a few days. Though we're gonna have a good amount of layoff this time around because both series ended so early. I think I'm gonna check this really quickly. Hold on, folks. Yeah, it's not starting till Thursday. Damn, I thought maybe they'd started early because everything wrapped so fast. But I keep forgetting they never do that for the finals. They always just leave it where it is. They never change it. So that's gonna be awkward. We could have a whole week with no basketball. Chris, have you ever experienced? It's been a while since you had like this much downtime. And since both teams were so efficient in winning their series, they're both going to be well rested.
Yeah, I don't remember a layoff quite this long because I remember when Boston beat Indiana, which feels like it's been a week already.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 days they had from that night until game 1 of the finals. And it was regardless of who won the Western Conference, like you said. So yeah, it strikes me as really, really long layoff. And I mean, let's face it, the finals will probably be going until the end of June. I mean, it's like, I think June 27th, I think it's like, if it does go 7 games, that would be game 7. So,
well,
kind of wild.
Yeah, kind of wild. I am looking at it here. If you watch it on YouTube, you can see it too. It's not quite that long. It's pretty close though. It's like June 23rd, which
the 23rd. My mistake. Yeah.
No worries. I mean, it was a good guess. It was a very good guess. But yeah, in the end, it will wind up being which of these cameras is it? Why aren't you showing up on here? But anyway, it's all looking pretty solid. Oh, maybe it's because of this. I'm not sure. Your name isn't showing up on the screen for some reason. Let me fix that.
Let me just say, I offer you my condolences to the loss of your friend. That sounds really difficult. It seems like it was very sudden.
Yeah. I mean, it did. I mean, he was battling cancer for 2 years, but it is true though. Things declined very fast because it looked like things were holding up. He was finding treatment, things were happening, and then the last week and a half, it just went south so fast. It really threw all of us for a loop, honestly, and all of us on the sandwich who are part of the Sandwich Show. It's just, really sad news. Like, so thank you. We're doing what we can to get through things as we come out of such tragedy. But anyway, but we, with that, we've been able to have like really fun shows and do things to kind of, help us give us a little bit of relief from things like that. And this is a good part of. Oh, there we go. I don't know what I did. Okay, so those of you watching on YouTube now can see Chris's name on the screen. It obviously doesn't. It's the most Sheeran thing to fix ever, but I'm glad for my purposes, it's fixed. But yeah. So as I mentioned, this is gonna be a pretty short episode tonight because I'm like, we can't really have much to. There's really not much to recap at all from the conference round. So let's just get to it. We'll start with the East. And again, it's happened so fast. I don't even have like the page with all the results because it was just so. It was just so quick. But I think when you talk about the Celtics, the depth of that team, there's so much talent on there. And you look at what happened with how they came back and they won game one. I'm actually looking for that. Okay, yeah. Game one, yeah. So Indiana had control of game one the entire way. And then if I remember, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Al Horford who had the shot to tie the game. I don't know who it was that tied the game, but somebody tied the game at the buzzer.
It was Jaylen Brown hit the three from the corner.
Ah, yeah. That
was game one, right?
Game one, yeah.
And it was Siakam guarding him. And I mean, that game looked like Boston was going to lose, and they probably should have lost that one. And Jalen hit a miraculous shot. I think there were 5 seconds left on the clock when that happened. But yeah, it was JB.
Wow.
Who ended up winning the playoff MVP or the Eastern Conference MVP.
He deserves that. Yeah, I mean, he deserves that. It is unbelievable though, just to think about that. Like they were down. I don't know exactly how much they were down. I'm looking at it here. I'm like, no, I think the Pacers were maybe up by. I'm looking at it. Okay. Actually, the Pacers were down in this game. I didn't realize that. Am I looking at the right game? I'm like, is this game one? Okay, just double check.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's just interesting. Like I don't. Maybe I'm just reading the chart wrong because I thought the Pacers were leading almost the entire time. This is saying it. Maybe I'm looking at it backwards. But oh yeah, Boston did start off to a 12-0 run. That's right.
Yeah, they had a huge lead in the first quarter.
They did.
I think they were up by 12 in the
they were up by 12 first quarter. So the Pacers stormed back to take the lead. And the one thing I would say that I did notice, at least for Boston, I couldn't speak to the Pacers at that point, but it did look like their offense was rusty, which you would expect because the Celtics were off a lot of rest, which is good. I mean, it means they were able to take care of business when they had the chance. But I will admit, this is a different story than I remembered. I can see that the Celtics were up by 7, and I think had the State Pacers hung on towards the end of the game, the story would actually have been how the Celtics blew their lead because they were up by 12 early. Totally forgot about all this. My goodness, yeah. And then they went to overtime, and that's kind of where things changed for the Celtics. And yeah, I mean, Pacers did have this game though. Like they're up by 4. They're up by 3. They're by 4 with 4.5 minutes to go, which is not a lot. But then they were up by 5 with 2 minutes left. And at that point, you can see their win probability was really high. And we can track that too. The win probability was at its peak at that point. So Pacers up. Oh well, that's because they were up by. All right. No, but with 2 minutes to go, they were up by 5. Actually, less than that. It was up by $143. They were up by 5 points, 115 to 110. So, while the Pacers really, I just felt like the whole series slipped from them at that point. And I can't really point to anything specific. It just happens. But they definitely should have won that game because I feel like this would have been a 6-game series that they won. However, having said that, it is actually kind of remarkable to notice that the Celtics actually did have the early lead in this game. So I stand corrected on that. I mean, that's some good resilience by the Celtics blowing a lead like that and then coming back to win anyway. I mean, how would you speak to the to what drove that resilience for the team in Game 1?
Honestly, I think it was really defense. It feels like every game. Well, game 2 was the one where Boston won comfortably,
Yeah.
uh, Carlisle pulled all the starters super early in that game, which was kind of surprising. And Halliburton had left with the it's a hamstring injury, right? A hamstring injury, I think. And so it was a little bit of a surprise because it felt like the Pacers could have kind of fought back in that one, but yeah, they went to um, the bench early in that one, and Boston won game 2 comfortably. It was 16 points. But game 1, there were a lot of really nice defensive plays. It felt like the Celtics were just kind of pacing themselves, if you'll forgive the pun. But
I
they
forgive
were
you.
kind of, I mean, because Indiana plays so fast that they can really wear you out, And it feels like the Celtics just kind of saved some of that juice for like the later quarters and clamped down on them later, and that to me is what that felt like. They
Hmm.
just felt like they could they could conserve some of their energy for later in the games. But yeah, I think that's what I feel like. I feel like they, um, and I think they really missed Porzingis in the series, and more than I thought, just because the Pacers had a lot of easy baskets, like short range, mid range, like all the they I think they shot like 70% from two, and something crazy. There was some crazy stat I heard, which was impressive, but I feel like had Porzingis been around, they could have protected the rim a little bit better. But yeah, I mean there were standout performances. Jalen was excellent. Tatum was really solid. And Drew Holiday came up with some big plays. I think that was in game 3. I'm trying to remember. It feels like a month ago it happened. I probably should have refreshed my memory before I got on here with you. But yeah, it was the games were close though, and the Pacers kind of kept it close, and I was sweating it out. But by the time game 4 came around, I felt like, okay, this is 3-0 series lead obviously feels pretty strong, but I felt like Boston could close it out that night. I felt like a sweep was possible.
Yeah, and the sweep they got. I do have to give Indiana a lot of credit for playing hard in Game 4 because they could definitely have just they could have just emptied the they could have just packed it in for real. But no, they were hanging around. I mean, they were even up in certain points of the game. So it's hard to really evaluate the Pacers' performance in this series because one, the Celtics really were very good this year, and the thing is, I mean, when you're 37-4 at home, like that's going to be hard to beat, and so. And not only that, but a lot of these guys, a lot of these key players have played in a lot of playoff. Even Porzingis has played in. I mean, Porzingis is not really a factor in this series, just to be clear. But had he played, he would have been a bit. He would have had a lot of playoff experience too. And so Horford definitely did. Brown and and uh and Tatum, like it's a very good, it's a very balanced team with a lot of experience. Like, you need a lot of recent experience, a lot of experience in the conference finals, ton of experience there, and some experience in the finals as well. So here they are in their next. I don't even know. I had never thought to count it, but is it probably the 105th NBA finals? They've been in so many, but exciting stuff, right? Like this seems like a chance for, in a way, for their purposes, the redemption, because I know that they've had a lot of near misses making the finals. I mean, Chris, I mean, we don't have to get too deep into this series, but if you look at the Celtics in a longer macroscopic view, like does it feel vindicating to see them back once again after having their struggles with the Heat in previous years, beating them, and then making it easy against Cleveland, and then having a pretty decent challenge, as you mentioned. I didn't want to be fair about that, but nonetheless a short series against the Pacers. So things are lining up pretty well for them. I mean, how would you how'd you look at their journey to this place?
Well, I mean, one thing I'll say is that when like health has been good for them this year. I mean, Porzingis aside, Tatum and Brown have been healthy, and that hasn't been the case in a lot of years. And so, do I see it as vindication? I see it as vindication if they win the finals. If they lose, I don't. But yeah, I mean, when you have two top players like that, and they've been playing together for for a long time now, 7 years, I think. I think 7 years ago Tatum came into the league. So, and Brown was the year prior. So, and there's familiarity there. And so I think, yeah, I definitely think I won't feel relief until until they win one together. But but one thing I wanted to share, I posted a link in the chat.
Okay.
And because it just ties back with something you just said about how much playoff experience they have. And you're right. And I thought this was interesting. These are the most playoff games with no championships. And the first two guys on that list are Stockton and Malone. Third guy, Al Horford.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But he's been around a long time, though. Like, he's been
around a long time and been on a lot of playoff teams, with the Hawks and the Sixers, Celtics. So, so yeah, that I thought that was interesting. I heard that stat the other day that Horford is up there with some greats in terms of how many playoff games he's been on and not had a championship. Who's Perkins number 3? Who is that? Do you know?
I think it's
Sam Perkins. No,
it might be Sam Perkins actually, because
Sam Perkins didn't win a championship with the Lakers or anything like that.
No, he was on the Pacers in 2000, I think, when they were there. Didn't win that time either. So yeah,
he was on the Mavs for a long time.
Smooth too. Sam Perkins there, yeah.
It is Sam Perkins. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't scroll down and see it. I just saw his surname at the top. Okay.
Harden will probably wind up climbing over all these guys.
Who knows? Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised the Clippers didn't get further, but at the same time, I'm not really, because they're so old. Like, we were talking about that a few weeks ago. Like, we'll catch up with you after a while. So.
Yeah, and they're just a different team without Kawhi. I mean, that was what they were. Even when he played, you could tell he wasn't 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Really didn't play well.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's oh, wrong button. Yeah, so it's cool. I mean, I think that's all I have. I'm sorry to say. I mean, it was I do think the Pacers had a very good season. Like, they hadn't been in the playoffs in a while, so that was a big year for them. But I do think they've got to come out of that with a lot of disappointment too, because they're like, gosh, that's the best we could do against the Celtics after all that. I'm sure they felt like they could have a couple games on them. I really do. Is it? I mean, you were saying, like, before the series started that you thought that their fast pace of play was going to give the Celtics problems, and I'm not really sure if that happened. I think you said, like you said it, that the Celtics defense really slowed them down. I mean, maybe not literally, but they definitely did not they took them out of their game. Like, I just don't remember the efficiency with their offense. Like, they could have little runs, they certainly were doing that all playoffs, but I think the Celtics defense did a very good job. But also, you said it, Halliburton getting hurt, I think, was a big part of that. And if he's not well, that's not the same team. Like, they have a very good, very deep team. But if Halliburton is not Halliburton, they're just not going to be the same team in a big spot. So it's, like I said, it's hard for me to say how they would have done, how to rate their performance, because I don't think they were healthy the whole way, and that's definitely too bad, because I think things would have been a little different. I don't think they would have beaten the Celtics. I mean, I think everybody would have agreed. Like, I don't think that was going to go more than 6 anyway. So it's pretty much what we were expecting. It's just that I was hoping at least to be a little bit more of a fight than it was, but it was still a good fight. Like, we've seen series that have gone short and they've still wanted to be close, which is what you were saying. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, I think I picked them in 6. I picked the Celtics in 6, so I was off. But I mean, a couple things about the Pacers. One, and a few things to be like optimistic about if you're a Pacers fan. Like one, as you mentioned, Halliburton didn't play, but in his absence, Nemhard was like unbelievable. I mean, he just wouldn't miss. I mean, he was incredible. He had a wild series. And if you're a Pacers fan, you got to be like thinking, okay, well, this is what Nemhard can do. And I don't think this is a fluke. And, he's kind of, he looks like a really solid player. And he was playing like big minutes for them throughout the series. So that's one thing. Two is that Siakam kind of changed the complexion of that team and brought a little bit more edge and defense to them. And so a full season of Siakam with Halliburton and Turner and Nemhard and the rest is a good. It should be fun to watch. 3, I would say, is the play of Aaron Nesmith, who was in a lot of situations was put on Jayson Tatum to guard him and kind of gave him fits. And a good shooter in his own right. I mean, I remember when the Celtics drafted him, he was the best 3-point shooter in college, and he can still drill those shots. He missed that one that would have sent the game into overtime. I think that was game 4, but was it game 3 or game 4? I can't remember. I think maybe it was game 3. I think it was game 3. Yeah, it was game 3. But yeah, another player to be excited about if you're the Pacers. So they kind of have a bright future, and they've kind of demonstrated. To me, they've kind of demonstrated how to build like a real solid playoff team without like drafting like a superstar. Because remember, Halliburton came over from Sacramento in the trade for Sabonis, right? So they traded Sabonis for Halliburton, and they've kind of filled in really nicely, and the roster's kind of taken shape. Carlisle's, he's a good coach, and so I'd be pretty excited. I kind of expect big things from them, and I don't feel like this is, people go back to Atlanta in, was that 2021, right? When they made the conference finals, and there was a lot of excitement around them, and then they haven't even approached that recently. So I don't think it's similar to that. I feel like I just feel like that the plan is in place for Indiana to continue to improve.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I would say about that. If you would ask the question of the 2007 through 2013 or 14 Atlanta Hawks, who was their closer on that and any of those teams?
Wait, which years? Was this when Horford was there?
Yeah. Basically that era.
So
whenever that was.
Yeah, it was like Horford and Teague. Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know either.
Yeah, I'm not. I got. You call me off. You call me.
Well, I'm asking because I don't know either. I mean, I don't remember there being a guy that could be the guy you could give the ball to when there's like 10 seconds left on the clock and the game is like you're down 2 or you're tied. Atlanta never had a closer. They never had a guy. The Pacers have a guy. Halliburton is the guy. He's really good, and he can give you the big shot in the big spot. And if you need somebody to finish the game and close a game, or even just get a shot to put away a game, he's there. He's great for that. So I think you need that leader to be a truly good playoff team. And Indiana can get there now. I think they've got pieces to make it happen. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure if they have to do that much in the offseason. Like, the only thing I'd say is maybe their defense could be better, but I thought the defense was fine. All these games were pretty close. So, I mean, they probably could use, let me think, maybe Let me see. Okay, so
We're talking about what the Pacers need.
yeah, because like to make that a finals team, do they need another wing? Do they need? I mean, their centers are good. I think they've got good center play. I think their backcourt is solid. Maybe they just need a point guard, you know. Like, but even then, I think they're doing a pretty good job with that. Like, they've always shared the ball. Like everybody's, you tend to have a lot of guys in double figures. So I just can't think of anything specific they'd have to any specific thing they need.
Yeah, I think they're set at point guard with Nemhard and
Yeah,
Halliburton. I think that's fine.
yeah. Nemar has been playing.
I mean, honestly, like the pieces are kind of there already. I think,
Yeah.
like in terms of, I mean, because those guys are so young, and that's the thing that gets underappreciated is it's hard to win in this league with young players,
Yeah.
and it's just that's just the way it goes. I mean, people
Yep.
look at Magic Johnson winning the title as a rookie, but he was surrounded by veterans.
Right. Right. That's a great call.
And I mean, he won the MVP in the finals that year, but he had Kareem, who was at the top of his game.
Yeah.
In 1980. So it's really difficult, and I think just seeing continued improvement out of Halliburton and Neesmith and Nemhard and some of these younger guys. I mean, they have a few vets like Turner. I don't know how old Turner is. Probably like 29, 30.
Yeah.
And then and Siakam, kind of the same deal. Siakam was a 4-year player in college before he got to the Raptors, so he was a little bit older too. So I feel like I don't know that I see like a huge move coming on this team, but I could be totally wrong. But yeah, exciting things ahead for the Pacers.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they are set. I just don't hope them. I just think their ownership is pretty good too. So I think they'll be fine. They'll be fine next year. And yeah, the Celtics are tough. So there you go. That's the Eastern Conference Finals for you. The Mavericks made very quick work of the Timberwolves. They won their series 4-1. They had a chance to win the series in a sweep in Game 4, but you got to give the Timberwolves some credit. They did have some big shots late. It's really interesting you brought up how young the Pacers are and how tough it is to win in the NBA playoffs when you're a young team. And you did say that the Wolves are not that young, but they're still kind of young in certain spots, particularly with Ant-Man and it did kind of create a situation where they might have been a little bit in over their heads. I mean, the Mavs on paper looked like they were not as good as the Timberwolves. Obviously, the Wolves had home court advantage throughout the series, but again, we talk about experience and seeing Luka and Kyrie not only not afraid of the spotlight, but really, really just doing the thing. They were scoring really well in this series. If I'm going to point to anything that Timberwolves failed at, it's defense. Luka Doncic had 30 points in all but one of the games. I mean, that's a lot of points. So I do think that they really hadn't done much. They had not been. They really weren't doing what they wanted to do to take the Mavs out of their game. These were fairly low scoring games. You can see it on the screen. It really wasn't. None of these games really went off, but in the end, I think the Mavericks just had the moxie. I mean, I hate to use language like that because it just sounds so lazy, but truthfully, like they were. I think they just kept gaining this momentum with each series, and nothing has really stopped Luka Doncic as beat up as he is and everything. He's just having a ball. He's just been able to just have his way with the shots, and then when it comes down to crunch time, it was going to be one of the two. It was going to be Kyrie or it was going to be Luka making a big shot or making a play. Getting the ball to someone else to make a shot. There are a lot of heroes in this series for the Mavs. I think Gafford was a big one. You mentioned Lively. He was kind of like a judgment call for Game 5, and he wound up playing. Yes, a lot of these games were close too, but I do think this is where, again, I think the scenario of experience winning out is a big theme here for this series. So I won't take any more time here. Let's get your thoughts on the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I just think this was a bad matchup for Minnesota just
Mm-hmm.
because, and I have a friend who's a Mavericks fan. I was talking about this series with him before game one. And I said, after Ant, I don't know who's going to score because it's going to be up to Towns. And Towns had some real clunkers. I mean, he was, he was awful from 3-point shooting in this series. I mean, I think in game three, it was 0 for 8, if I'm not mistaken. They just did not have just the horses to score. And when Ant Edwards was, when he was driving into the lane, they would collapse on him and he would kick it out. And, if Towns was ice cold and Gobert is not an offensive player. And so it kind of came up to Naz Reid to kind of step up and be the second banana in that offense. And I think I can't remember what he did in game four. Let me just check real quick. I think game four, he had a big game. But other than that, they were just hard pressed to find any scoring. And then on the other side, I mean, the Wolves have been a good defensive team, but I mean, Jaden McDaniels has been their like kind of big wing defender. And I mean, Luka just abused that guy and just kind of pushed him around. And, it just became, I just feel like McDaniel wasn't strong enough to guard Luka, who's a good bit bigger than him. So it was tough. It was a really tough series, and the Mavs really showed me something, man. I mean, their defense is good. Derrick Jones Jr. and that guy Green stepped up, had big games. Like even just playing defense, they just played their butts off. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know where Minnesota goes from here because they've got an expensive roster, and I don't know. I don't feel like that too big thing works really. Where you're playing Luka and Cat and Rudy Gobert at the
Yeah.
same time. It's so hard, and I don't know. I feel like in the offseason, one of them, probably Cat, will be traded, but I don't even know. I don't know who would trade for him or what could be offered at this point. But it just, to me, from the get go, it just felt like a tough matchup for Dallas, for the Wolves rather.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. You start talking about Cat and Gobert in the series, you just you can't expect to win a game when you have a player that's pretty useless on offense, and that's essentially Gobert and has been for a very long time now. Like, it's just not if anything, they're playing him too much. It's not sustainable. Like, there was an era where that was sustainable. It was a very small era of NBA history, but that's just not going to be enough. And yes, they won. They beat the Nuggets with this kind of offense, and I completely understand it. I mean, it's because they can do great things on defense too, but the Mavs have too much talent on their side, and there's coming from different directions, as you're saying. Yeah, it's disappointing to me, but it's not a huge surprise because I think I just kept thinking about how are they going. Yeah, same thing as you. Like, I was just like, how are they going to score? How is Minnesota going to score with each game? Because you could just have like two guys on Edwards, and that's going to leave like a bunch of people there who really don't have like a consistency in their offense, right? Like, I'm thinking, just to give you an idea, like I think Conley might be the best dependable offensive player. No, it's Cat. I'm sorry, it's Cat. Well, after Cat. I'm sorry, Cat definitely would be it. But the thing is, we were talking about Cat was brutal during the playoffs for a lot, and he got ripped apart a lot. He had one really good game. It was Game 4. Like he took over that game in the fourth quarter, so that was great. But the problem is when you can only do that one out of every 4 or 5 games, it's just not going to get it done in a playoff series.
Yeah, totally. And Game 4 was the game that he fouled out, right? And just made some dopey fouls. I mean that's the thing. He has a great game and just he makes so many head scratching plays. And I want to correct myself. The game Naz Reid came up big from a point standpoint was Game 2 actually. Game 4 he wasn't very good and he only played 20 minutes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is with this team. I feel like they need to shake it up a little bit. I don't I definitely they need another scorer, like somebody who can just who can take the ball when Ant draws the double and score either from from the perimeter or whatever. But they definitely need another player, and I just don't have confidence it's always going to be Cat. And I might, if I'm Minnesota, I might look to sell now on one of those two guys, but I don't know which one. I tend to think Cat has more value, even though Minnesota gave up a king's ransom to get him from Utah. But I just feel like Cat, because of his scoring, could draw more interest. But I'm not sure. I don't know. And maybe they don't trade anybody and they just kind of run it back. That's another possibility too.
They can't run that back.
You don't think so?
Well,
here's the thing that you mentioned Conley.
Mm-hmm.
That's another. I mean, like I like Mike Conley, but that is a place where they need to upgrade. Because I mean, he's good and he's reliable, but he's old now, and like I feel like even he was getting worn down by Dallas chasing Kyrie around, and so that is a position where they need to at least get like an understudy who can like soak up minutes, because I just don't think I just don't know how much longer he can do this.
Yeah, that's fair. I do want to just step back just a little bit, because you reminded me when you talked about that foul that Towns had on Luka towards the end of the game. I was like, the Wolves are that was kind of the moment I'm like, they have no way. There's no way they're going to make a 3-0-3 comeback after seeing that. They did everything they could to give up Game 4 at the end. I mean, you cannot foul Luka behind the 3-point line. That just shows you, like you said, like how I mean, I just want to say lost, so I'm just gonna say lost. How lost Cat was there. Like you can't, like that's like the only thing you could do to get them back in the game. Like if you just let him hit a 3, you're still up by 6. Like wait, or I think it was 6, right? Or is it at that point? Like with the 3,
it would have been. Luka missed.
I think he missed the free throw, right? Yeah, he missed the free throw. Anyway.
Yeah, he missed the free throw. Yeah. So it ended up. They were only up 2 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They were only up 2 after he missed the free throw. So they'd been down 1 because he drained the 3, got fouled, missed the free throw, and that changed the whole complexion of it. Actually, no. Had he made it, it would have been they would have been up 3.
Yeah, so they were up 4 as a result of him missing, because that's what I was looking at. I was like, okay, well, can a miracle 3-pointer tie the game and force overtime, a la Boston Game 1 in their series? So the missed free throw actually took that out of contention, and then finally the Wolves put it away. But it's just like they really tried to give that game away in the last 2 minutes, and it's like that just gave me no confidence in them rallying beyond that game. They were honestly fortunate to win, after if you really think about how that ended. So yeah, they won the game, but good for them. But it's like it's just a team that needs help. Like just the offense is hard to watch outside of Edwards, and when he's on, great, and he's about to kind of reminds a little bit of Jalen Brunson, except even worse because Jalen Brunson needed to take over games for the Knicks to win. However, they did have some contributions from other players, and it wasn't like painful to watch some of these other players play because they had other guys, DiVincenzo. They had who else?
Josh Hart, who was reliable.
Oh, Hart was doing well that series. Yeah, he was good. Yeah,
and Hartenstein.
Yep, Hartenstein too. Yeah, so it's a pretty solid. I mean, that's a little better situation. They're younger too, compared to some of these other guys. Like Gobert is definitely not young. Towns is kind of borderline, and Conley's very old. So this team will definitely could benefit from some retooling. As you said,
yeah. Just real quick, just about the ages. I just want to interject because I looked it up. Conley is 36, so he'll be 37 next year. Gobert is 31, and Towns is 28. So that's how that shapes up. But a 36-year-old point guard who you're depending on big minutes, that's not going to work out so great.
Yeah.
So, and I like Mike Conley, but I just feel like, I think his best days are behind him.
I would see that as a stepping stone towards like a somebody else, like a younger player or somebody somewhere in between. Someone who's not as old, someone who's but is still pretty capable. And I think it's out there. We'll see what the offseason brings. So that's our match. That sets up our matchup. Mavs win their series. Celtics win their series, and that leads us to the NBA Finals, which again isn't going to start until Thursday.
I know. We could do another show before then, Dave.
I know. It's just like maybe we should have just put this off until next week. I mean, didn't realize like we had this much time. Like, what are we gonna? I guess we'll just wait. But so I mean, we could just wait until like I don't know. No, let's go do it now.
Will we have more to say? Maybe we'll know more about Porzingis. And other than that, I don't know what else.
Yeah, no. I mean, we wouldn't have that much more to say. So we may as well just knock it off here. And just get, just gonna do it and give everybody a convenient place to just get it all in one sitting. So we've already talked a lot about both teams, so we already know what's to come. These matchups are going to be really interesting, though, especially the bigs. Like you got Gafford versus, let me think, Gafford versus
Porzingis.
If he plays,
he plays.
Yeah, I hope he plays. Like I want a good matchup. I want everybody healthy. So
yeah,
best case scenario, he does play, and it's interesting. I think it's it's obviously Boston Celtics series to lose. They had shown themselves to be the best team in the NBA, in the Eastern Conference for sure throughout the season. And I think a lot of people would say they're the best in the NBA. I mean, after the first month and a half or so. I would say I think I liked the Nuggets going into the season, and I don't know what happened. I think they were maybe some of the key players that they had on the bench kind of changed over time. That may have hit them. Let's not get into that though. Yeah, really, this is a pretty interesting setup. Like it on paper, it looks like it's the type of series, especially with Dallas kind of on a roll right now. And I mean, you're concerned a little bit about the layoff, but since both teams have a layoff together, it might not make that much of a difference. Like, I think that might be fine. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna give it to you to just preview the series straight away. I don't have any real analysis to offer other than to say you've got really great stars on both sides, and I think it has the potential to be a good 6 to 7 game series. However, I could see this also ending pretty quickly too, just given the idea that the Celtics have better length and all equally good closers. 2 of them, actually. I think you make the case that Brown and Tatum are, and obviously Tatum more than Brown, but still 2 really good closers on that team. So, I mean, it sets up with a lot of potential. Chris, like, how do you see the series?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. I don't think it's I think it's going to be 6 or 7 games. Dallas is playing their best basketball for the last like 2 months. And I mean, not that Boston hasn't been great, but Dallas has really caught fire here. And there's also good storylines too, because we have the whole thing with Kyrie in Boston and Porzingis in Dallas. So we have those kinds of things. And yeah, I think the matchups are really exciting. I mean, you know, you brought up Derek Lively, who has really been like a sensational rookie for them, and just a solid post player, good instincts. He's really good passer, and then having I'm drawing a blank on the backup center's name. You just mentioned him, Gafford. You know, backing him up is really, you know, is tough. But I don't have a pick right now. I still need to kind of think about it. I'm leaning Boston, but I really think this is going to be a difficult matchup for them.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I mean, I think you're right. Like Tatum and Brown are 2 closers, but so is Kyrie and Luka. Boston, do they have more size? Maybe. I don't know. Luka as a guard though is so big. He's 6'8".
Yeah.
You know, he's huge. I mean, he's almost the same size as Jalen, or maybe about the same size. They're about the same size. I expect Jalen will guard Luka, and or maybe, you know what? Maybe Drew will guard Luka, and Tatum will guard one of the bigs. He'll guard one of the centers, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that I think on offense, Boston, assuming Porzingis is healthy, will present some matchup problems for Dallas, just because Dallas has been able to get away with not guarding, you know, a stretch big like Porzingis. And I mean, they didn't, you know, they kind of like left their, you know, that gave them better rim protection. And it worked against Minnesota, because Towns was, for the most of the series, was awful from the perimeter. So that could be a huge X factor depending on his health. How can they guard Porzingis without giving up some of their rim protection? But I don't know. I'm impressed with all their wings, like Derek Jones Jr. and Green, and that I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about this. I think this will be a good series, though. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait. I can't believe it's 6 days away. That's crazy, but yeah, it should be fun. I think this will be a good one. And I also mentioned the storylines. I also like the fact that there's like this kind of, you've got these like up and coming stars. And as much as I like a good like Golden State Cleveland finals with, you know, Steph and LeBron, I feel like we're kind of like, this is like the changing of the guard, you know, finals, where we don't have like a LeBron or a Steph and Clay, or you know, or a KD in this. You know, it's like it's like kind of the next generation is kind of stepping up. So should be fun. I'm excited. Can't wait. You know, I was thinking about it. I barely watched any baseball this year, and it's because the Celtics and the playoffs have kept my attention. So when it's over, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be bummed out. So I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a nice ending to the season, I think. I don't have anything to add. I think it's set up to be a really good matchup. I think Dallas is a live dog too, and I think you could absolutely see them winning it in 6 or even in 7. I don't think Luka is afraid of winning a big game like that on the road, and neither is, of course, our friend Kyrie Irving. So, and he would want that too, because all we know the entirety of his saga with the Celtics, and so I'm sure he would love that situation too. But yeah, I mean, but similarly, Porzingis would love the situation of getting back at his old team, if he's able to play in that series. So it all sets up really nicely, and I think whoever wins is going to be a worthy champion for real. Like, I think both these teams are very good. So officially, I'm going to say Celtics in 6, but I would not be surprised at any real outcome. I mean, the only thing that would surprise me is if either team won in 4. That's about it. Everything else, I think, is very much on the table.
You mentioned dog. What is the money line in this series? Like, how are where are people betting?
Well, I mean, the Celtics are definitely favored, but I'm going to go look at that right now, actually. I'll give you a sec here. I can figure it out, because you just have to go to Action Network and figure it out. Action Network. Okay. Let's see what we got over here. Let me go look this up, everybody. Those of you watching on YouTube can see the odds on the screen as well. And in just a moment, let me just figure this out. Okay, so NBA Finals odds. We can look at the spread. We can look at... what I really want to look at is like futures. Let's see if they will have futures on this sheet. Give me a sec here. I'll look at this. Okay, so they're showing me game 1, but I do want to look at the entire series. I may have to go to a different site to look that up, because so then what I'll do is I'll go look at the NBA Finals odds series prices. Okay, I got it here. Okay. So at azcentral.com, which is run by USA Today, we are told, as I'll show you here, the Celtics are giving $220 to win the 2024 NBA Finals. The Mavericks are getting 184. So minus 220 equals, it's basically like paying $2 to win $1. So yeah, that's a pretty, I mean, it's a decent favorite, but not an overwhelming favorite by any means. I mean, they definitely, I feel like one could lay that and feel decent about it. They wouldn't feel outrageous. It wouldn't be like minus 300 would be a big favorite. I mean, this is a big favorite as it is. Like, if you're, just to explain to people who are not familiar with the odds, if a series is a complete coin flip, the odds would be minus 110 for both teams. So this is double that for the Celtics. So in other words, they think the Celtics are pretty solid pick to win the finals altogether. The Mavericks are getting decent odds, but not huge odds to the point where you'd be like, ooh, well, maybe I can sneak in $1 to do this and maybe I'll get something out of it. But still, I mean, not bad. I mean, plus 184, that's nearly 2 to 1. So yeah, I do you feel like that's about right, Chris, if you're looking at the series prices?
I don't know. I mean, you have a better grasp on this stuff. I was just kind of curious. Like, I don't track it nearly as closely as you. So I was just more curious, but I feel like the Celtics with a slight edge does feel right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was just kind of curious too, because it feels like Dallas has so much momentum, and they beat Minnesota, and the perception is the West is stronger, which it is. It's more, it's more stacked, and Minnesota had just come off beating the defending champs. So I thought maybe Dallas would have gotten a little bit more of a boost just based on recency, but I wasn't sure. But maybe they did. Maybe
I think they did, though. I think they got a little bit of a boost. I mean, if they had gone into there without knowing what they did, I think the Celtics might have been like minus 250. But it feels like it's about right, though. I don't really feel like, I feel like it's like you said, the Dallas played very well in this playoff. So I think had they just kind of snuck in there, had they been a 7 seed, I think that you might have seen maybe 300 or something. But personally, I think that's right. I think it's about what one would have expected, even like before the season. I think you might have gone with that. But so yeah, I think that's I mean, they're not huge underdogs, but they're not like, it's not even. It's like pretty much, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. I think it's about right. I don't really know what I would have done. Maybe I would have said maybe 170, but minus 220 isn't much of a difference. So it seems right. I'll give you game one odds. Game one odds at Boston. The Celtics opened as a 6.5 point favorite. Currently, the line is Celtics -6, and the over/under is 214. So everything is set. Just we're on point. Like, this is pretty much what the Mavericks had been getting. In fact, I think the Mavs were even getting 5 yesterday at Minnesota,
Wow.
which is kind of nuts. Because, like, who had more momentum in that series as you got into Game 5, even off a loss, right? Like, would you? I figured Dallas seems like the better play, and they were still getting 5 points in that game. So I'm not sure what you mean. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I was so disappointed with Minnesota yesterday. Like, I texted you and I said I had to turn the game off because it was.
Yeah.
I was watching hockey last night. I switched over to the Ranger game because it was depressing. It was not fun to watch.
Yeah.
And Lively got hit in the head again, which was he got clubbed by Naz Reid like late. But yeah, it was just I felt like it was such a poor effort, and it just coming off the win, I thought coming home, playing in Minnesota in front of the fans, I was like, they could extend this to 7 maybe, and it was not to be. So bummer there, but yeah, that. So you said Dallas was Dallas -5 yesterday.
No, it was well, they were on the road, so the Mavs are on the road.
Yeah.
The Wolves were. I'll go back and double check that. But
it was Wolves -5.
Wolves -5. Like, wow, like, for a team that really had been struggling this year. I mean, they're going to be favored. I get that, but I was thinking like more like 3 or 4. But getting 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said the over under in game 1 is 214. Do I have that right?
214. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think they said that pretty well.
That feel right to you?
It does.
I don't know. That's like a 106, 108 game kind of thing.
It feels like it's going to be a 106, 108 game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
all right.
The Mavericks have been playing much better defensively, and I feel like what they've been doing is they've been making teams uncomfortable on their side of the court, or on their when they're defending their side of the court, I should say. But basically, when they're on defense, they're making the other team uncomfortable. And we can go back here to the series. Like, you can see, the two teams did not get above 110 very much at all. It only happened twice, and both times the Mavericks were the ones that got over 100, over 110. So, all this to say, I feel like similar things could happen in this series. But on the other hand, I do think, because there's so much talent on both sides, there's definitely the idea that it could be higher scoring, a la the Celtics against the Pacers, where you can see right here, the teams were routinely over 110 points. So, the matchups are going to be very different in this series. So I don't think it's going to be as slow. The Timberwolves were a slow team. If you think about pace, Celtics are maybe a little bit slower, maybe, but not really. It's kind of the middle of the road. Like, if you look at the Mavs, that's kind of more of a wild card to me. I kind of, if given the choice, I'd probably say they're a slower paced team than not, but I think they can score, though. Like, where do you see the scoring going between the two teams? Will the pace be medium, mild, like medium, low? Will it be high? Like, I'm not sure exactly how that will go.
I'll tell you one thing. I prefer watching the Celtics play at a faster pace. I like when they and Derek White is really good at that. Is like really pushing the pace, because I feel like meaning the Celtics, find easier baskets when they do that. They're much harder to defend. They're a little bit more unpredictable, and I think it's just easier because you don't really have to go into like your full half court set all the time when you do that. And I'm not even just talking off transition baskets. I'm talking off of make, and when they push the ball up, and before anyone can get into a half court defense, it sends the defense scrambling. So that's my hope. I brought up the 214 number just because it just felt low to me, but after you went through those numbers, maybe it seems right on the mark. But I just feel like these are two, high scoring teams,
And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just you have a better grip on this than I do because you look at these numbers more than I do.
I think they said it well. But well, that said, I do think I would take the over in game one. I think we'll have a better idea once we see how they do against each other. But we're not going to know that till the game starts. So I think of the two, I would probably take 214. I mean, it's a big enough number where I'm not going to be confident in it. But I also think, as you said, if one team goes off, they really go off. Like, you've seen it. Like, especially with the Celtics, like they can really paste a number on you if they're shooting well from 3-point range. Like, they will paste a number on you. So, very probable that will happen for either side in game one. So that's just something we'll look for. So the over feels good. And then we'll really know the rest of the series based on that. Like, okay, does that going flying way over, a la Indiana? Will it be barely over? Will it be under, much like you saw with with pretty much any Minnesota game? But yeah, I don't know. It's I think if you asked me to take a side, I would take the over. But it does have those one. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's the teams are deeper, so it's not like they're going to be sitting on the same rotation, so they're not going to try to drag out possessions. I think they'll probably be good pace. Did we ever see the regular season series isn't going to say much about this, but do you remember if the games were fast paced and high scoring in the regular season?
Boston won both of them. I know that. I think one of them was a big time blowout. But I'd have to check. It's not. I don't have it top of mind. I need to look at it. Sorry, I don't have that.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I really put you
I
on
know
the spot.
Boston won both. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, it's okay. If you come up on it, that'd be cool. But
yeah, the March 1st game, which I believe was the last game they played, Boston 138, Dallas 110. And that was a game where Doncic had the triple double. And then they played on the 23rd of January. And I just want to check that score real quick. You asked 119 to 110. So that was a bit closer.
Yeah.
But the second one was after the trade deadline, but it was right before Dallas went on this roll where their defense like kind of started shining, and it might have been their last really bad loss in the regular season.
Yeah.
So it should be fun. I'm excited. I can't wait.
It should be fun. I do think you've led us to something here, Chris, and that is the fact that the Mavs are going to get their toughest test to their defense. I think you can play defense so much easier when you know there's only one person you have to really worry about with Minnesota. And if you go back a series, they had a similar situation with the Clippers because, again, without Kawhi, it's a much easier team to defend. And in the middle, they had OKC, who...
And OKC was really just, SGA. They didn't have a dependable second scorer, so...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But you're definitely onto something there.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same point, Boston's going to have their, this is their toughest test as well.
True.
And,
very true. Very true.
I mean, I think the Miami series and Cleveland just had, really one super dependable scorers on both those teams. And then, and then the Pacers. The Pacers were a little bit of an anomaly because they kind of spread the ball around a little bit more. But but yeah, you're right. It should be an exciting test for both teams. I if you ask me, I would go over 214, but
yeah,
who knows? I mean, they've been calling the games differently the last few months. So the playoffs are always, they let fouls go a little bit more. So maybe that's right on the money.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it'd be pretty close, but I too would also take the over. I think definitely if you see one team off on a roll to start, you could totally see it, right? So from that logic, and then the idea that both teams are going to have a really tough time guarding each other early, it makes a lot of sense. So we'll see. I mean, it's definitely going to be between It's going to be between 200 and 214. Absolutely. We're not going to see like a 98 to 80 game. I just think that's just impossible. Like that would require so many players playing horribly in the game, and I don't think that's gonna happen. I think we're gonna get somebody's gonna step up somewhere on one of the teams at least, and if not more, and if not both teams. So, altogether, I think we're gonna have some drama there. I think we'll see. At worst, it would be close to 214, but we certainly can see it going over 214 in game one. And I'm pretty sure that the over-under will stay about the same throughout the series because usually once that's set, it's like it fluctuates a little bit, but not a lot from game to game. So it's exciting stuff. And that's our NBA Finals preview. Very exciting things to get into. I'm looking forward to it too. By the time we meet you again, we're barely going to be scratching the series at all, if even scratching it. I'm guessing we would do that podcast on Friday next week because Wednesday there's no game, but I'm also not home, so I'm probably going to be. I mean, I'm not home that night anyway, but
Friday works. It would be perfect because it'd be the off night,
yeah.
and then we already have game one in the can. So
for sure,
that'd be a good one.
It's good to do that because that's the other reason I wanted to do it that way. Because we did the preview, so there's nothing. We're not going to really have much to contribute if we do it the day before the finals, so we can do it the day after game one. And it could be pretty juicy. I think we'd have a lot to discuss perhaps. So I think it's going to be great.
We'll certainly know a lot more.
Yeah,
on
absolutely,
Friday. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll touch on two things really fast. I'm just gonna say it really quickly. We lost Bill Walton over last week, and I'm honestly really sad about that. I didn't know he had nobody did. They kept that under wraps the entire time, but that's just sad to see. He lived such a healthy life. He really tried to take care of himself. That's what and so I certainly didn't think it was going to end for him that quickly. But at the same time, I guess he was pretty beat up over the years with all the injuries and everything. It's sad though. He was great. He was such a fun guy. Yeah, and I'm sure Chris, you could speak to what he did on the court. He's amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, along lines of what you just said, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to NBA radio over the weekend and so forth. And it was all Bill Walton talk, and what you just said was what everyone else said. Was everybody really liked this person? Everybody really liked him, and he was like a genuine, authentic person who just liked other people, and he loved basketball, and he liked to talk to people, and yeah. So I don't remember Walton all that much as a player, other than with Boston in '86. In that incredible season in which he won Sixth Man of the Year. But yeah, I mean, his college numbers are insane. They went full seasons without losing. I mean, it was just absolutely a remarkable career. One thing I need to read is, and I have the book, is Breaks of the Game by David Halberstam. And it's about the 79-80 Portland Trailblazers. And so I need to read that because I'm like, my curiosity is piqued, and I'm kind of ashamed I haven't read it. But yeah, it's just, guy had a career, great career in broadcasting, just felt like an ambassador for the game after he left, I think young players love talking to him, and vice versa. And so it's just, yeah, it's an awful time. It just feels really bad. And like you said, no, he didn't want to tell people he was sick. That's just the way he was. I think he was kind of private in some ways, and he just didn't want the attention really. And so yeah, I feel like it was a great loss. And
yeah.
And I was thinking about it, like the Celtics, man, like they've lost so many players. I mean, they lost Russell, and just in the last 6 years, they lost Casey Jones and Sam Jones, Havlicek, and there are others too. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but Heinsohn, Tommy Heinsohn passed away a few years ago. So
it's been rough. I mean, it's just that that age that those players are all passing, and of course Walton was younger than those guys, but it hits hard. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
so rest in peace, Bill Walton.
Well said. Well said. Rest in peace, Bill. I mean, he was a big part of our town too. Of course, like, he dominated at UCLA. Still a
Oh
big,
yeah.
yeah, still a big fixture in campus all the way to this day. Really, from time to time he'd be going to games. He'd be calling games for ESPN. For the now defunct Pac-12, I guess. But we'll never know now what life without the Pac-12 would have been like for Bill Walton, and that's a tragedy in itself. But it's kind of messed up too, because it's like that was his love and joy. Like, he loved the Pac-12 so much. I don't know anybody that loved that conference more than he did. I was like sad for him when they broke it all up. I'm like, that's ridiculous. But anyway, it's such a bummer. Like, Grateful Dead fans everywhere are bumming out too. So you don't even have to like sports to appreciate Bill Walton. Like, he was such a big fan of the Dead, and man, just I can't. It's hard to get. It's gonna be hard to imagine a world without Bill Walton and his goofiness and his ongoing positivity. Like, it never really stopped. He was always full of joy and positivity. Kind of remarkable.
Yeah, the positivity thing is that what strikes me, and that's something that everybody repeated, was just how he was just like a fun guy to be around. And that's a rare quality.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's oh sheesh, what did I end up doing over here? Whoops. Sorry.
That was very dramatic, Dave.
I didn't even what did I do? What was I even showing at that point?
I don't know. It was like, we're gonna take a moment of silence for Bill Walton. Screen goes black.
That was most definitely not the intention.
Well, you should just play along with me. I think that works.
I'll take it. You take it. Yeah.
You said there was something else on your mind before we go?
And this is a lot more trivial. But this Cavs firing firing Bickerstaff, basically. Like, that was a disgrace. Like, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because the Cavs don't deserve that much attention after that. Like, but that's a disgrace. Like, he was a good coach. He got the Cavs to a good place. They were not a complete team. And you're gonna go into that and you're like, well, that's not good enough. Like, well, how would you improve upon that? Like, ridiculous. Like, what a waste of money that it's gonna be. Like, you're gonna hire some other guy. Like, what is that gonna do? They're probably not even gonna make the playoffs next year. It's just, what a joke.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot going on behind the scenes. This is just me inferring from what other people have said, but it sounds like Mitchell wasn't, the biggest JB Bickerstaff fan. And there's so many rumors about like a real like personnel shakeup there, because I feel like they want to keep Mitchell happy and they want to keep him in Cleveland. And Garland and it doesn't seem like they coexist all that well. Excuse me. And so I just think there's more to that story, and a lot of it starts with Mitchell. And
do you think Mitchell's that good? Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Do I think he's that good? I think he's a really good scorer. He's, I mean, look, those guys are not easy to find, right? I mean, like, guys who can, create their own shot and run the offense, and that's what Mitchell can do. But I think they're going to have an interesting offseason. Let's put it that way, because I just feel like, we talked about Minnesota. Well, they could run it back. I don't think Cleveland can run it back. And I think there's changes going to be coming to that team. It could be It could be Mitchell. It could be Garland. It could be, one of the bigs. It could be Mobley or I'm trying to remember the guy who played for the Nets. He was injured the whole playoffs, so but now it's going to drive me crazy. I got to look it up. Cavaliers roster.
Wait, LeVert? Was LeVert the one that was
not
injured?
LeVert.
No, LeVert played,
the
right?
Center. It is. Gosh, it's driving me crazy. Jared Allen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I suspect like one or both of Jared Allen or Darius Garland is not going to be on the Cavs in a month.
Yeah,
because we got the draft coming up, like at the end of the month.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, we got a draft in like less than 30 days.
Oh yeah, I mean
like 30 days, June 30th.
Right about that time. Right about the end of June. It's coming up for real. I was just gonna say, like, I don't think either of those two folks you mentioned are getting any younger, so I don't think they have pretty good leverage in terms of moving on from either one. So yeah, we're probably good there. They've got some retooling to do too. You're right. Like it's very similar to Minnesota's. Like it's kind of a mishmash of like some young guys and some really some aging guys, and I feel like some cohesion, getting younger or just getting more depth. I think is going to be big for both teams. So yeah, I did not know about the bigger staff drama. That's interesting. So that's certainly going to be a factor if your star players are not happy with the way the players are coaching. But I'm like, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think they're probably going to be about the same next year, personally, unless they just make some really good moves that I do not foresee. What do you think what's their cap situation? I'm going to go to Spot Track. I'll look that up. But is there a good cap situation for them? Let me see. I don't know. They have $40 million in cap space for the summer. Oh no, that was last year. That's not this year. I'll have to see. You want to take a look at this, Chris? Let's just see what their spot there. I think they're doing all right. Like it says that they have 51. I think that's good, right? It's negative 51 equals good, because that means they are that much under. Do I have that right? Oh, Chris is muted. I'm sorry. Okay, wait a second here. We'll see what Chris has to say about this cap space in just a second.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I was trying to talk. Yeah, under 51 million under is great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where's Mobley on this?
Okay,
so he said cap hit. It says is it 11.2 million? Is that what that says? Because he's probably going to be. He's going to be off his rookie deal, I think, right?
I think at some point. Well, yeah, this is just looking ahead to next year. This is just next year, so it looks like he's in a good spot because you can see his base salary for the next season will only be $2,093,000. So that's not too bad. So I don't know how much longer he'll be on that rookie deal. It's pretty close to the end of it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, he has one more season. Next season is his last on this contract. So they've got to like kind of plan ahead for Mobley, and assuming this is the direction they go, they build around Mobley and Mitchell. But it could easily be Mobley and Garland with Mitchell the odd man out. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to go that way. I suspect they try to keep Mitchell happy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big name player for a reason, right? So I can see that. But they do have. But the interesting thing here is they do actually have options. This is a good cap situation for them. So I guess time will tell. I can't really comment on what they could do, or what might think of the moves because they haven't happened yet. But at some point they will.
I see good things. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, who knows? Like there could be good things. Like we'll see. Garland is getting a lot of money. Holy crap!
Oh my gosh! Yeah, Garland is signed until 27, 28.
Oh,
but Mitchell has a player option 25, 26.
Yeah,
and then Allen signed through 25, 26.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like their backcourt has kind of developed the way they wanted to, and I suspect that like they'll be big players this off season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. That's a good way to put it, Chris. And I think on that note, I think we'll wrap it up. Do you have any? Shall I give it to you for final thoughts, Chris?
No, my final thought was going to be about Walton. So
Yeah.
but you brought it. You beat me to the punch as usual. So yeah, I'm in closing, I'm excited about this series. I'm excited about the newness of it. And I mean, newness meaning that we've got like, some up and coming stars here, and that, I mean, Tatum's been to one finals, but Luka hasn't been to the finals. And,
Right.
And Kyrie's only been to the, how many has he been to? Two or three? I can't remember. But either
wait,
way,
did you say Kyrie? He's
yeah.
He's definitely been to one with the Cavs, probably
Yeah.
two, right? Because like the Cavs, the one that they lost, I think was with them too. So, at least two. I can't possibly a third, but definitely two. Yeah.
So it should be fun. And so, like I said, fresh faces and new, maybe a new rivalry emerges, and two and up and coming stars. So should be good stuff.
Oh yeah, good stuff indeed. Well, Chris, thank you so much for doing this again. I do appreciate you jumping in on a Friday, and we'll probably just set the next one for Friday as well, since we'll have a good spot to start our summary of the finals. And we are hoping it's a good game one. So meanwhile, have a good rest of your weekend, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much, Dave. Thanks for having me. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too. Thanks so much, Chris. Take it easy, my friend.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye. That's Chris in Georgia. Yeah, good times. Like, it was good to chat about all the things. And with that, we're going to say goodnight. Thank you very much for doing this, everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you missed any part of our program, replay it right here on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, if you have not seen our show on YouTube, you can go to our YouTube page. Davey's Eating a Sandwich has the Sandwich Corner. It's a special section of our YouTube page, and we will keep updating that page with new episodes every week. And yes, next week will be our next Sandwich Corner. Next show on the Sandwich Show might be for a bit because I'll be out of town for a few days. But that's all from here. Thank you so much. Look for me at Davey's Eating a Sandwich. Twitch.tv/Davey's Eating a Sandwich is the main show. And everything else I do off the clock will be on our social media platforms, aka Instagram and TikTok. So until then, I'll say good night. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you next time.